That's a very big question. I have answers. I might not be, it's not maybe politically correct, but let me try to give these answers. You see, it's not Bangladesh is the only one, or Bangladesh democratic activists in Bangladesh were the only one have been ignored. It's all over in the South. They have been ignored by the West. Uh, would be, I wish, I mean, of course, Quad is a brilliant idea if it's really emphasized the cooperations among the democracies. But are these really democracies being, taken into or even respected or at least being nurtured or supported? No. So this is something as I think I have out of frustration, I find that probably the Western academics do not consider the democracies in South are good for democracies, or the people of the particularly are good enough to decide who will be governed. They need to be ruled. I think that's colonial mindset still is working, because that's the way I see. I mean, I understand among the policymakers, among the rulers, but also among the academics, even among the media, the idea of democracy, idea of human rights, idea of freedom of expression, idea of freedom of associations are very different in these countries, particularly in Europe and North America, compared to when we talk about in our case. There are only few countries where they do try to say that the democratic act or the democratic issues being highlighted in this part are the three countries, at least in Europe, and also to some extent that reflects in America: Russia, China, and Iran. I think there the focus is, if anything happens, okay, I mean, I'm no way defending those regimes. They're absolutely, but there are other countries, like you mentioned, Bangladesh used to be. I've been talking about India, Pakistan, Nepal, you name it, and most of the African countries. Do we talk about them? Do we really give that kind of people, those who are fighting for the democracy and human rights? So this has been an ignored for a long time. And sometimes what happens, there is also a lack of understanding of the media and academics abroad, because this took, in my case, it took me ages to convince the people in the whomever I know, and they're really liberal ones, to know that Modi is not a Democrat. So this is somehow, so it's also lack of knowledge what's happening in those countries, the lack of knowledge of kind of politics the actors are engaged. They usually look at it outside, some kind of economic reporting, particularly GDP, GNP growth. That's what somehow being manipulated in many cases. And also, I find it the people, those who are academics and journalists, those who are working on these countries, they are very fearful of not getting a visa or something to come and travel. If they don't do that, they will not be able to conduct their research. So I think there are several factors which are engaged, whereas I find it much more. I totally sympathize. I understand where you come from. This is exactly my frustration. That, look, guys, if you don't stand up, who will? I mean, what, your jobs are secured. You don't have to worry about your rent. You are not going to be arrested, put in the jail. If you don't stand up, who will stand up? But that's what never happens, because some people, even some, those are the also Western academics, those who are studying our country, and also our academics, those who are also living abroad, diaspora academics. They are also scared of going back to their country, or they sometimes they're also very much happy with a little bit of recognition they get when the ministers get invited to the embassies, or when they go, they usually get a little bit more attention back home, and that's what really make them a very different characters, while they really are failing in their basic duties of what